This is Gemara Baba Basra Daf Kof Anon. All the learning should be an incredible schos. Rafua Shlema for Tinuk ben Miriam Ahuva b'siyata d'shemaya. The koyach hatayra, the koyach that we know is Talmud Torah Kenegei Kulam, knows no bounds, should bring incredible and continued Yeshuais and Refuais. We're holding on Daf Kof Non. We're in the middle of discussing the Shchimera that gives away his properties, but the din in the Mishnah that taught us Im Shayir Karka Kolshu. So we're trying to figure out what is that kolshu. Asks the Gemara. We're in Daf Kof Nun Amud Aleph. We're about 12 lines from the top. First one line is V'chol Leicha. Asks the Gemara V'chleicha Zani Kolshu Leslie Shura. Are you telling me that anytime it says kolshu, there's no precise amount what kolshu means? V'atanan, but we learned in a Mishnah. Rav Doisi ben Hyrcanus Aimer. Chamesh Rechilois Geizelois Mana. Teaches Rav Yosef ben Hyrcanus a Mishnah and Chulin. If we have 5 sheep, each is Geizelois Mana, Mana Pras. Each is Geizes, we share off the wool of a mana and a half. The halacha is Chayeves Bereshis Hagez. The halacha is that quantity, you have to bring the Rishis Hagez, the first shearings. So Rav Daisa holds that at what point are you chayiv bereshis hagez? The first sharings to bring is when you have 5 sheep, each one with 1.5 mana. Says the Gemara of Chachamim Mairim, they argue. Chamesh rechelos, they say yes, it's 5 rechelos. Geizes kolshein. But if they are geizes, if they are shorn at any amount, then you're chayiv in rishas hagez. So now this kolshein, this is going to be the detail that Abaye is going to use to prove his opinion. Ve'amrinan, and we explained over there v'kama kolshein. How much is this kolshu? Amar Rav, says Rav, mana upras. Rav explains what is the kolshu according to the Chachamim. A mana and pras in total. According to Rav Daisi ben Hyrcanus, that would be a mana upras per sheep times 5. Times 5. According to the Chachamim, it's a mana upras total. Belvad in provided she mechumashis, as long as it's from all of the sheep. Mechumashis, that each has to give a 5th. So what do we see from here? Proves Abaye that even though the term kolshu was used, but kolshu is smaller than the previous opinion than Rav Doisi ben Hyrcanus. So says Abaye, so too in our Mishnah. When he says kolshu, it means he's referring to an amount that is just a little bit bigger than the minimum size. But Rav Yosef responds and he says, no, Raya. Over there by Rishis Hagez, the term kolshu is really wrong. But if I did come to Tanakama Shira, Rabba, because the Tanakama Rav Doisi ben Hyrcanus said a large shear, Amar Iu comes on the Chachamim Nami Shira Zutra, and they say a small shear, and Karila Kolshu, they call it a Kolshu. But this will not be a Raya to our Mishnah, and our Mishnah is no reason why Kolshu could have been used, and therefore, says Rav Yosef, Kolshu must mean any amount, not like Abaye. So that was our discussion, Abaye, Rav Yosef. How much is a kolshu? We move on 2 lines from the white lines. The Gemara continues, Pshita. The following is Pashet Amar. If we're again describing the Shchimera, so we'll see in a moment, we're segueing away from the Shchimera, we're talking about Stam giving away gifts. Pshita. Amar metaltal Pliny. Someone says, I would like to give metaltal, a certain movable item, to Pliny. Call money, Pashmishne, any utensils that are used, Kani, are kaina by that person. All the different utensils that he uses are given away because he says, metaltali stamli, a certain person. Levar, what does he not give? Mechiti usairi, wheat and barley. When we say metaltalin, says the Gemara, refers to utensils and not actual food. Called metaltal plania. So that's in a scenario where he said, stam metaltal plania. But the Gemara contrasts that. What if you said call metaltal plania? If you then everything is given away, even Chite Yisrael, Vafilu Rechaim Al Yaina Kana, and even the upper Rechaim is kinda Levar. The one thing goes on to himself is Mechaim Tachtaina. A third case called the Metaltali. If he says not, he doesn't say Metaltali. He doesn't say Kol Metaltali. He says Kol Dimitaltel. Anything that moves, then Afilu Rechaim Tachtaina Kana, even the bottom Rechaim. So three different cases. The Gemara says what the terms mean with regard to giving away properties to someone else. Asks the Gemara on the third by line, Avdi kimin karkoi, oi kimin taltalai dami. When someone comes to give away his items, what is an eved viewed as? He's giving away his metaltal, and is an eved included in that or not? So Amar leRavacha Brei Rav Avi leRavashi Tashema. This should hopefully ring a bell. We learned this earlier in the Masechta. Someone sells a city. Excuse me. Machar Batim, the houses, Sichlim Arais, different water, vaults, and bathhouses, and Marchatzais are included in Besadin, Besashlachim, Besabadim, the olive press, Besashlachim, Valoyis, and Metaltlin are not included. Bizman Shamar, but if he says, if he says, I'm selling the ear and everything that's inside of it, even if they're animals, ayavadim or servants, then harei kula mechurin, it's all included. So case one, he sells the ear, but Talton are not included. Case two, kol masha b'seicha, what's included? Even avadim. Says the Gemara, let's bring a raya. So if you tell me to have it like metaltalin, then it makes a lot of sense. Shamachi loim is davin bereisha. It's not sold in the ratio when metalton is not, but it's of course sold in the sefer when it is. If an evid has din of karka, why is it not sold in the ratio? Responds the Gemara, says Rav Ashi, no raya. Velamai. What are you going to tell me? So you're going to tell me the evidence in metaltlin. So my afilu, the lashon of the Bryce is very hard. If you look up 3 lines, at afilu, what's the afilu? It has a regular din of metaltlin. So what are you going to have to explain this Brysa? You're going to have to say that there's a chilek, shiny metalta denaidi, metalta deloy naidi. You're going to have to explain movable metaltlin. That there's 2 types. We're trying to figure out if an eved has a din of metaltlin. If an eved has a din of karka, says the Gemara, no. Shiny metalti denayid, metalti deloy naid. We're going to be machalik between types of metaltlin. And therefore, so then on the flip side, you could say, even if the evidence doesn't have a karka, so therefore it says the Gemara, there's no raya from this brisa. What is the status of an eved? Continues the Gemara, Amar le Ravina le Ravashi Tashema. 8 lines from the bottom of the Amid. We're trying to figure out what is the status of an eved. Is an eved have a status of metaltlin or not? Says Ravina to Ravashi, Hakoisev lavdekol nechasav yatsa ben chayr. Shayir karka kolshu lo yatsa ben chayr. Shemin aimer lo ilmu ben chayr and shemin kol nechasav nesun leblan yoy avdi chot me'achad riboy sheben. We had this brisa yesterday. So this is if someone is giving over everything to his eved. So what's the raya? Says Ravina, 4 lines from the bottom. V'amar Avdimi bar Yosef, V'amar Avalazar, Asu metaltlin shiur, Eitzel eved, V'lasu metaltlin shiur, Eitzel ksuba. Says Rav Dimi bar Yosef as follows: the Chachamim said the metaltlin are considered a shiur with regard to the eved. That even though it said explicitly that he has to hold back land, but even if he holds back metaltlin, it's the same thing. The reason is, what is the reason why metaltlin are considered different when it comes to a eved than when it comes to a ksuba. The reason is because an eved is din a metaltali. Umetaltala lemetaltala have a shear. Metaltalin could be considered a shear, leaving something over with regarding to metaltalin. But ukshubis isha mekarkayu. Metaltal mekarka lo have a shear. So proves the Gemara, fascinating raya, from the contrast between an eved and, or I said, the din of shear and ksuba, proves the Gemara the din of eved as a din of metaltalin, because the ksuba is going to have a din of karka. So says the Gemara as we turn over to Kovnun Amid Beis. Says the Gemara, Amar Le Rav Ashi responds, no Raya. Anami Shem Delav Kurosgita Matanina La. Says Rav Ashi, the reason this Eved doesn't go free because there's no Kurosgita. There's a din that when it comes to all Gerishin for sure, get krisos and avodim, it has to sever. It has to have no strings attached. And that's the reason, but it's not because, says the Gemara, that we necessarily can be machalik between the Eved and the Ksuba having a din of metaltali or a din of karka. Continues the Gemara, so we don't have a raya what the status of an Eved is, but Gemara segues to a new topic. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav, on the second line of Kavnun Beis, Amar Nachman, Chamisha. There are 5 people that when they want to give away something, it's effective. Whether they write away all of their possessions or not, these 5 scenarios are able to give away their items. Veluain, Shchimara, which again, that we've seen so many times in the last few daf, that the special din of a Shchimara, that even when you don't give away everything, it's considered a matana for the nature of the Shchimara. Says the Gemara, number 2, Avdai, Ishtay number 3, Banav number 4, Mevreches, and a woman who put away all her possessions. We'll see what that means. Number 1, Shchimra Detanan. This is our Mishnah. Shchimra Shkazakon Chasav Lacherim, Mishayir Karka Kolshu, Matanasai Kayemes, Lo Shayir Kolshu, Matanasai Kayemes. Very simple. Avdai number 2 did not. So what do we see? We see the same thing. They're able to give away everything, even if it's not a situation of call. Number 3, Ishtai. Someone writes all his properties to his wife. She becomes a appointee on the lands. Banav number 3, so we see that he could give away to her even without writing kol nechasav. Banav, it's not a kol nechasav. Banav because of Ishtai. Lishtai karka kol shu of the ksubasa. She loses her ksuba. And number 5, the one case which was a little more complicated is mavreches. This woman who gives away her properties. This is an almana who wants to remarry, but she has properties and she doesn't want a new husband to have them. So therefore, she gives the properties to a third party. So in such a scenario, Damar Mar, Mavreches has to write Kol Nichasel. She has to write away all her possessions to the third party. So again, each of these 5 people were in the same category that if they give away all their possessions, has a different status than if they would only give away part of it. Says the Gemara, now what does it mean, all of their possessions? Ubekulu, and in all of these cases, and from this we'll see a little bit why we brought down this thing over here. Bekulu metaltali have shir levar miksuba, which of course connects us back to the previous sukkah. Then all of them leaving over metaltalin is considered a shir. It's considered like leaving over land. There'll be no difference except for ksuba. Why? Demikarkoi takin rabbanon metaltali loy takin rabbanon, a special din by ksuba that only works if you leave over the land, not if you leave over the metaltalin. And amema amar metalti dechsivi b'ksuva v'sneu beinayu have a shir. Says amemar, if there is metaltali for a ksuba and it's intact, then it would work. Doesn't have to mamish be karka. Metaltali could work if the metaltalin is around. And that concludes all these 5 cases and their similarity. We'll wrap up today's share with a new case. Says the Gemara, Amar Nechsaya Leplania. This brings it back to Amar Aleph, which we discussed giving away metaltalin. So if someone says, my nechasim to ploni, then everything which is nechasim goes away. So what is the status in this case? We've spoken about metaltalin leplania. What about nechasi? Says the Gemara, avda ikri nechsi. An evidence included Ditanan, kozak l'chas l'avda yatzmin chayrin. Ara, land, is also ikri nechsi Ditanan. Chaz sheshem achrayis niknim because of shar v'chazaka. Glima, shirt, ikri nechsi. Ditanan v'shem achrayis niknim elam m'shicha. Zuzi, money, ikri nechsi. So all these items, avadim, land, clothing, cash, are all included. Ditanan v'shem achrayis niknim nechasi sheshem achrayis because of shar v'chazaka. So all of these items will be included if one gives away nechasi leplania, and concludes the Gemara, kiha, like we saw the Rapapa, havli tris alfi zuzi bechazoi, akniu ne'alei Rav Shmuel Baracha, and he gave these 12,000 zuz to Rav Shmuel Baracha, agav a sefer de beisei. How do you do it? To buy the threshold of his house, kiaso nafik lape, ad tavach. When Rav Shmuel came back, Papa was so happy, he went all the way to Tavach to greet him. So from here, the Gemara proves that he was worried he wasn't going to give back the cash, and therefore Rapapa gave it all to Rav Shmuel, so there would be no chiyuvim on watching the money. Rapapa, how did he do this? By a piece of land. So what we see from over here, that the kinyan would work, and from here this proves that kesef, that zuzi have a din of metaltali, and that's the reason why the only way he was able to give away the cash is agav the karka. We'll stop over here and we'll pick it up for the next as the Gemara continues. Shtara ikri nechsi b'siyata d'shmaya.